Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. Welcome back to today's stream. Happy Monday to you. Yeah, we'll just kind of wait for a few people to get into the stream, and then we'll actually start chatting. So if you end up watching this on the replay, just I guess fast forward. But in short, market slipped back to positive, kind of as the title of the YouTube stream says today. Market flip, tracking higher low, higher high. Basically just means market has turned back to a positive environment. So you're more likely to see higher low, higher high formation until the market enters back into a downtrend. Right now, the volatility index is negative or also bearish, so therefore we generally are going to look for markets to rise. So until market goes back to bearish or until the volatility index goes back to bullish, we will pretty much watch for markets to increase or at least have a higher low, higher high sort of trading environment. So less favorable environment for bearish trading. Since bearish trading would only be counter pullbacks or pulling markets back against uptrends right now. So, yeah, cheers. So yeah, pre-market support trend over under, kind of mapping it off right now, as you guys can probably see. But just in general, that's going to be our pretty much desired pullback target for the day and support over under. So pretty much for weakness going into the morning, we'd assume market pullback to here, right? And it's kind of a double-edged sword because it works in a couple of different ways. What's going on, Steve? Pretty much it's just that, the market, just think of someone who wants to be big bearish. You don't get big drop below here. So essentially that's just a pullback target and also support and then also the breakdown spot. So it's like that's going to be first desired pullback target going in the morning, most likely. And then if we can start getting below that, we'll look at, kind of ideas of lower. But for the moment, that's pretty much it as far as the pre-market. I could explain it a bunch of different ways, but I mean, that's pretty much it. I'll actually, instead of having to explain it, I'll just put text on the screen. That way it can stay on the screen the whole time for the moment. Yeah, I want to make sure it stays on the screen. I guess I could make the text a little smaller. That might be too small. Maybe 28. Yeah, that's better. So that's that. Again, so that's more of the, that's pretty much just pre-market trend for the moment. Okay, I don't really need it now. So, yeah, that's based off of what's happened this morning pre-market. The bigger picture is that the market is now back to positive. The volatility index is negative. That's why you've been seeing the markets blow up into this long move. Now, does this long move continue to hold? We'll find out. But we're not on the bearish momentum side right now. So we will talk about that here. Regular trading hours chart. As we discussed last Friday and all of last week, we were bearish the stock market because it was in a negative trend. And then, what day was this? Thursday? Thursday, we said starting to look for oversold supports. Friday, our long target was the 50 SMA. And pullback target 10 SMA. Blah, blah, blah. You know what? Forget all that. The simplest thing to say is last week we're bearish because market was in a downtrend. Once it became oversold, bounce, now above 50 SMA, and that's why you have a big gap up this morning. You will see that the market went from negative to positive, and this is the gap up this morning. As the markets force themselves higher, as the systems turn positive, algorithms are now buying equities up. Whether you want to call it manipulation higher, forcing markets higher, equities getting bought, markets being bullish, markets being positive, however you want to believe, describe, translate, the markets are going higher. Many times it's because, well, the way I see it is just algorithms are turned, it's like turning a switch. We were bearish, so programs and equities are getting sold. Now we're going positive. Now the algorithms flip. Now we're going long, right? So we really just saw is a shorter term transition from bearish to bullish in the market over the course of, well, last Tuesday. So from last Tuesday to this Monday, we've gone from a bearish to now bullish market. All right. So yeah. We will now highlight where the 50 SMA is at. So I'm going to actually map this off. So on Friday, how are we going to do this? We're going to do this with, how do I want to do this? I'm going to do this a little differently than I normally do, but since the market's not really open, I guess we can kind of teach and talk about the market and whatnot. But anyways, so this is what we'll do. We'll do there, then we had it here, and then it was here. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm mapping off the location at which the market interacted with the 50 SMA on Friday before turning into this bullish long breakout and positive market we're now seeing. Going to the extended trading hours. Yep. So let's go into now a 1 minute. All right, so number one now is here. I guess I could have made it, but sometimes it jumps around. Either way, so that's one. This would be, it was two here. Wait, 1, 2, 3, right? 2, and then it would have been later, which was 3. Good morning, Rico. Okay. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh, so annoying. 1 second. Yeah, so that one was trying to break above, and then, well, I guess there's just one, maybe. Well, yeah, I guess you would call it 3 would really be there, too. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it makes sense now. All right, so on Friday, number 1 here was our long target. You can just go back and watch Friday's stream if you're not already familiar with that, or you can go back and watch the video we posted on Friday too. That will cover it. So number 1 was our desirable long target for Friday, and also resistance point, right? So on Friday, as the market was coming up into number 1, that was the first attempt of breaking the 50 SMA, which dictates uptrend, downtrend. Okay. So it gets resistance because doesn't always happen, but that's the general rule of thumb, is that when something is trading into one of your levels for the first time, so in this case, market was a downtrend, first time back to 50 SMA, we try to keep it down. And then if it breaks later, it's bullish, right? That's kind of the way you think about that. So that was first attempt, right? And then the second attempt was here. So this was second attempt, interaction 50 SMA. At this point, the market's kind of trading above, chopping it, blah, 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 right? And then in the after-hour session, while everyone's sleeping and snoozing, what do? They turn the market back to positive. So they make it so it's, the only way you would have been able to participate on this new long is if you bought Friday at the end of the day, which, again, most people aren't hanging around at the end of the day Friday to begin with. So when we move the market back to this 30-minute, it'll become pretty clear. That may not have been the best way of describing all that, but again, you'll see right here. This is the 50 SMA. So we first hit it on Friday. Let me take an arrow. There we go. Yeah, so on Friday, there's a 50 SMA. We hit it there. That was our first attempt. So obviously resistance. And then as the market got to it the next time, it kind of hit it. Didn't have as much resistance. Not that it could have, didn't have to, blah, blah, just in general. And then you'll see the market, by the end of the day, starts holding above that SMA. So as the market starts to hold above the SMA at the end of day Friday, we would say, and this is where the 50 SMA ends up being. So right where I'm putting that yellow line, that's where the 50 SMA is at. By the end of the day Friday, right at the end of the day, what's the market start doing? Remember, this was first tag rejection resistance. Then the market comes up and starts supporting over the 50 SMA. Algorithms, if you will, the market, the system ends up holding positive. So remember, above that yellow line is market is positive. Okay. Below that line would be market is negative. Market negative. Or, you can think of uptrend or downtrend, etc. So market positive, market negative. All right. And so what happens? Market goes what? Back to positive end of day Friday. Market holds through the after hours, and then in the early morning session and through the morning, market, us, everything, rally the market. By the way, our pre-market pullback target is now hitting right now. If you are, well, there's only 4 of you, so it's not like we're talking to a whole bunch of people. But, Anyways, pullback target is complete, as suggested the beginning of the stream. I deleted it from the screen because we're obviously teaching and doing all these things. But our pullback target is complete. So that would be another foresight analysis trade idea completed. Cheers. So market's back to positive, right? So, I've been long biased the market pretty much since we've been long biased the market since, these low points Thursday for bouncing. And then the following day, we figured the long target would be obviously the high a day. And now I'm long biased from the end of the day Friday for more of a positive market trend. So we were long biased for oversold bouncing on Thursday. We were long biased for reversal trading Friday. And now we are long biased from the end of day Friday for more of hopefully swing positive movement, right? So if that helps, I guess. So yeah, now I, as far as my bias, psychology, everything for me is just long bias. In the macro, we are currently short-term bearish, obviously, for the reasons of taking the market back to pre-market volume weighted average price levels, which actually we might haven't hit them. We're pretty close, though. The pre-market pullback target was right about here. So we actually shied it by like a hair there, actually. So my bad. But yeah, that would be our pre-market whatever pullback over under. It's actually updated a little bit, but nonetheless, these my targets do update because a lot of times our targets and stuff are derived with volume weighted average prices, sometimes fibs, SMAs, but pretty much anything. Not a lot of the stuff that are derived for targets are SMAs and volume weighted average prices, so those consistently kind of change and update with the market. So that's one thing that my targets are kind of always updating, if you will. So this is going to be pre-market, yeah, over under. Just keep that. Oh, no worries, no worries. No worries if you won't be on the rest of the week. Good to see you. Happy you tuned in. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Bitcoin. Going up. So that's cool. Not bad. Bitcoin came in. I kind of forget if I think it shied our last sell target, but we're pretty much getting support at our most recent sell target, which means we're just going to go back up. And we've already hit. If I would have thrown out, if it would have been live streaming on say this weekend, we would have hit the counter long target. We kind of already did. So I'll show you real quick. Well, I don't even need to show you. This is our weekly volume weighted average price sell target on the downside was 108,000. I'll just go find it again because I do kind of forget what the exact price was. No, it was off this guy. All right, so our most recent sell target was the price of 107,948, and we ended up hitting a price of 108,600. So we missed it by about $700. And so the objective would have been sell down to here, then bounce to here. But we sold down to here and then bounced to there. So just in general, as far as markets moving to and from target prices perfectly, this one was missed by about $700. Now the long target of this bounce would be actually this is down here is weekly, so this would be weekly sell target and weekly support over under. I know I'm not spelling or doing that very pretty, but yeah, so that would be weekly support, weekly sell target. So as the weekly chart completes its sell target, it gets counter support and it backtracks, in this case, the daily reversal target, which we would get by taking the volume weighted average price of the previous red day on that market. So let's do this real quick. Bing, bang, boom. So, and in this case, I like the top of this green candle, but whatever. I don't normally do that, but just the way this market's moving, I could just tell that would be a good one to use, or it would make sense. So either way, so our daily volume weighted average price, so if we take the past couple days price action, what was this? This was Thursday, that was Wednesday. So we take Wednesday the 24th and Thursday the 25th of this September, a couple days back, and we take the volume weighted average price, right? We were selling down into weeklies and backtrack. Hopefully this is making sense. I don't know. But anyways, so these two yellow lines that you see on the upside now, that would be our daily volume weighted average price target. So this is daily volume weighted, not weighted, weighted average price level target long destination back test, backtrack, over under, key, magner. You get the point. So yeah, anyways. And then down here, this was weekly volume weighted average price target, sell target, support, over, under, etc. Right? So we're simply just doing, and not to mention, just because you see, well, let me just go back here a little bit. Not only was that weekly volume weighted average price our, kind of current sell target, if you will, but we also had one prior to that. And the one prior to that was here. Whoa, that's not set up right. All right. So there's ones prior to that too, which in the past were right here. All right, so our previous weekly sell target was right here. Oh, sorry. Right there. So we had previously sold down to it, then broke it down. At that breakdown, we tried to target our next weekly sell target and support. We shied it. This is the backtrack to the daily volume weighted average price now, right? So essentially, real quick, so I want to make this very clear. Let's use a box. I'm going to highlight this area of the market. Ready? This. So this area I'm highlighting, and I'm going to change the color of this box because everything's yellow. Let's make it different. And can we fill it in? Shouldn't I be able to fill it? I think I can. Visibility. I don't know. Style. Background. Green. Yeah, whatever. Maybe I'll just do, oh, there we go. All right. So that hold down move right there. Okay. And then let me actually do it like this. So that hold down move that's highlighted in that green box. Maybe I should, yeah, you guys get the point. I'm not going to make it red, but that whole area, right? And now this right here, this red box, I'm going to make this one red. Settings, even though it should maybe be the other way, but it should be the other way. But anyways, this one will be red. Okay, good enough. So everything you saw just happen on the downside in the green box, the volume weighted average price of that is this red box. Okay. So that is why we reversed to here. We're simply backtracking everything in all the volume that took place in this green box. Another way of thinking of that is when you go and look at the actual daily chart of Bitcoin, right? You know that what? markets do this. Markets generally, not always, but generally trade in what? Either a higher high, higher low formation, or they trade in a lower low, lower high formation. And most oftentimes, the lower low, or sorry, higher low, higher higher, or lower low, either one. The higher lows and higher highs, or lower lows and lower highs, are all based off of the previous leg in the market. So the new higher low is going to be derived from the previous leg's volume many times. So in this case, if the daily chart wanted to continue going lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, this would be the daily chart's lower high area. And actually there's another level above it that I'm thinking about, but so realistically that's kind of false, because there's actually still another level just above this that is from the past. It was untested. They could actually lower high the market, and it would still be a lower high daily market. But anyways, that's the general principles, right? Is that now if we go look at the daily chart, and what time is it? 9:27. Yeah, I'll get back to the market here in a sec, but yeah, pretty much if you wanted the daily chart to stay lower low, lower high, then what? Then we'd have to lower high here. So that's why the market bounced back to here. So that if the daily chart wants to continue doing its lower low, it can, right? So this is the daily. That's red, green candle down, red, green candle down, green up, 2 days. So if the daily wants to stay red, it can do it. And if these VWAPs, which are pretty much in this area, do not hold resistance, then the daily chart arguably starts to change structure, right? And then we would start looking at volume weighted average prices from this low and expect the market to then pull back to there. Right? So we're simply just doing this weekly VWAP, double bottom, whatever, bounce back to daily chart, lower low, lower high, volume weighted average price sequencing. That's it. And now we'll go back to market. What's up, Easy? The YouTube algos are crushing. All right, so we've completed our pullback target for the SPY, which is obviously the pre-market over-under, and now we're below that, so obviously we're getting a little more weakness. But, yep. Oh, wait, wrong thing. Extended trading hours. Yeah, no, that's right. Quick. All right, so, and I think there's something I haven't made kind of clear this morning, which is what? Which is that the long bias environment again started here. So we're not long bias the market right now and up here, okay? Because why? Because market started its long at the breakout. So this is a really good move from the long entry on the market. Profit taking and pulling market back. We're looking for and if the markets will set up a higher low and then continue up. Worst case scenario from the long entry down here would be that the market does not trend out into a swing long and we reset the markets down to the 50, which I again don't think is actually going to happen today. But again, whenever a long swing environment fails, then obviously you go back to the 50. In this case, we're not looking for that to happen, obviously. We're looking for the markets to establish higher lows, and continue working in our favor. That would be ideal. Again, we have this massive gap up, so that's another thing. It's kind of hard to go long into a super massive gap up while the 50 SMA on the market is still sloped negatively, right? So this is another thing that we're teaching in this stream, is look at the slope of the SMA, right? So the slope of this SMA is extremely downward, and the market somehow still broke through it and went with a huge gap. To me, that's kind of like we got a little lucky that we were able to do that. And so it's not foot on the gas pedal long now. It's kind of like wait a sec. Because again, your long entry should have been for this trend Friday near the close. That's where you were supposed to be getting long the stock market again for the swing up. Okay? So if you're not long there, then you could be long here, but what's your risk? Well, if the gap doesn't continue, or obviously if we reset into a pullback and then try to establish a higher low, you're obviously buying pretty high, right? So that's something you have to consider. But yes, we're currently in a swing long environment till stated otherwise. We're just a little overbought on this gap to the upside, etc. But yes, again, so narrative is market is a macro long environment. Now let's go take a look at the volatility index, see what she's doing, because the VIX obviously can be a good telltale sign of things, which would be one second, sorry. Oh, you guys aren't going to be able to see that because I am doing by screen. I'm doing my stream with window application. Hold on one second. I'm going to add something to this stream. One second. All right, there you go. So the VIX. Sorry, I meant to bring this up a second ago. Yeah, what screen am I looking for? This one here. 15 minute. Yeah, no. So this is another thing. So you see how on the VIX, we're not even above the 15-minute trend, right? So this is the VIX is in a downtrend too, right? So we know the market's positive, and what else? We also know the VIX is negative, right? If you look at the VIX, when did the downtrend on the VIX start? So the downtrend on the VIX started Friday, early Friday. That's why we were doing the reversal long trades on the market, because we could see the VIX was breaking down into a downtrend, right? So since the VIX was breaking down into a downtrend Friday, we recommended watching markets long, bouncing, and reversing, right? And now that the VIX is broken down into a downtrend, the market's obviously blown up. The market's now positive, etc. So really the only way we change to going back bearish the market is if the market enters a downtrend, the VIX enters an uptrend, or we think the VIX is trying to back test the 30-minute, at which case we would then start pulling the market down. So generally, I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm just reading the market in real time and telling you, the ways that we would change with the market. And if you guys can pick up on that lingo, or the more times you see it repeat, you'll pick up on it too, which really just is right now. And let me actually try to make this smaller so we can see both screens. Yeah, we'll do it kind of like, hold on. Let me try to kind of get this in here better. Maybe if this goes on the left and that one goes on the right, I don't know. Yeah, no sense. Basically, what I'm getting at is you can pick tops on markets when the VIX tells you to, right? So if the VIX was entering an uptrend right now, we would be full-blown bearish the top of this market, right? Because the VIX is saying to do that, right? Which, by the way, I'll get into some 1-minute stuff here, if you will. Let's see, that's the open down to the sell target, yeah, so. The other thing too is market internals. Yeah, and like right now too, which I haven't brought over. Oh, you guys won't be able to see that one either. I got to change. I don't like the way this stream is working because you can't just drag. Wait, can I? I don't think I can. You're not gonna see even if I drag it up. No. But that's okay, I guess. I could just add another one. That's fine. Window capture, another one. Window capture 3, and this one is going to be. There we go. I don't know why that's also coming out so big. Weird. Anyways. All right. So now what you guys are seeing on the screen are the market internals, right? So let's look at the market internals. Are the market internals for the QQQ bullish right now? No. Are the market internals for the NASDAQ 100 bullish? No. What about the S&P? No. What about the volume for the market? No. What about NYSE? No. No. Nothing is trading bullish this morning since the open. We can see that, right? So if you're thinking about being long in this exact moment, like right in this moment, so far nothing has really been saying to do that. There is a little bit of positivity starting to happen on the Mag 7. You can see my cursor. This is Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, Nvidia combined ticker. Sometimes when this one alone is trading positive, we'll see markets bounce even if all the rest are red because they're such big market cap stocks, right? But right now the market is not bullish as far as equities being bought, right? So again, this is how, well, not this, this is how, just again, you guys already know, we're macro bullish environment on the market, but here you are having me tell you we're not bullish, right? How is that the case? Well, again, we're macro swing positive in the market. But as we come into the market today and we start looking at the internal movements, there's nothing that's getting bought. So that would tell me that yes, the market is positive, but there's no momentum forcing it up long in this exact moment. So the long currently is kind of, there's someone's foot is not on the gas pedal on this long right now. I don't control that, right? Just because the market goes over the 50 SMA and then the market pops up and the market is now what we call bullish territory, positive market, doesn't mean it has to go up for forever. Doesn't mean it has to be super bullish every single moment we say the market is positive, right? So we're taking a swing long strategy, saying we're positive, and then we're taking intraday momentum strategies and layering that on top. And that tells us that the market is not extremely bullish in this exact moment. It actually tells us that everything is at bearish except for maybe a couple of the stocks, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple. Other than that, 90% of the markets are selling off right now. And what you're also seeing behind the scenes, ready? Watch this. So now let's look at, wait, is that, wait, hold on, is this window capture 2? Yeah. Okay. Well, why is that? Oh, is it to bring it to the top? Maybe bring it to the bottom? Bring it to the top? Where's window? There it is. All right. Now look at the VIX here. You see how the VIX is going up, right? Just because the VIX is going up doesn't mean markets have to go down, blah, blah, blah. But again, you can see some of the equities are not very strong so far this morning. You're seeing VIX go up, right? So markets are pulling back. But the VIX macro trend is still negative, right? Yeah. I feel like half the time I'm just basically speaking to myself and really no one And that's a lot to take in. You have to watch the market for years to really, I guess, understand what I'm saying. But and I try to give as much detail as I can, but the easiest thing I can just always say is market is positive or market's negative. To learn all the rest of the intricacies there, it becomes far more challenging. But yeah, I mean, your stock market is in fact bullish until I guess I say otherwise. So we'll bring up the SPY, I guess. We'll go back to that guy. So which one has to be on the absolute top then? Window capture 1. I see. Again, we don't have enough positive market buying in the underlying equities to further the market's long for the moment. Okay. Actually, we should take a look at where the 10 SMA is too. Wasn't really thinking of that. That's really far away. That's another thing too, guys. That we're just looking at the market. Think of the short-term 10 SMA, right? So just look at the blue line. Just look at the price action, right? Look at the blue line. And where's the price? Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Where is the blue line right now in the market? It's all the way down here, right? 10 SMA is all the way right there. And that's the short-term 10 SMA. That's a shorter-term trend. That still hasn't caught price, nor has price caught it, right? So that's the first thing that we're going to be seeing on the markets in terms of just these two SMAs is we're going to see that price catch that blue one quicker, right? So whether that comes in the form of the 10 SMA going up to the price or the price of the market coming down, you never really know entirely. You obviously just know it's going to be one of those two, but just in general, we can clearly see that we're in a positive market. We still need to catch the 10 SMA up. That hasn't happened. We've opened up on the day. It's Monday. Markets aren't getting bought. The only thing that may be going up are some FANG things. So I can see here, look at Apple's down, Nvidia's up, Microsoft's starting to go up, /up, Google's up, UPS is down, Berkshire Hathaway down, Eli down, TSM up, AVGO up, Tesla kinda up. Well, obviously, I'm talking about from the open, not overnight. JPM down, Netflix down, recovering, Amazon down, recovering, Meta down, recovering, AMD up, etc. So when we go through the list of those big names there, majority of them are doing okay, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing on the market internals, which I just brought up. You can see here where my cursor's at. Those are the market internals. Those are the FANG names. Right, so instead of me having to go through every single individual one of those stocks to see how they're performing, I just combine them in a ticker and say, if this is up, then obviously there's a good chance the market can go up, or there's a good chance the market may not go into a dramatic sell-off because a lot of the big names are still propping up the market, right? So, when I go and look at the SPY this morning, let's go back to the SPY. Right, when I go back to the SPY, I go, yeah, we're not super bullish right now, but we're also not extremely, right, we're not super bullish, but we're not extremely bearish. Why? Because a bunch of the Mag 7, the big market cap stocks, are still holding up. Though it would appear every other market is selling off today, the Mag 7 are still holding up. So we can't fully dump the market off this high. There's not enough people performing in the sell-off to just cause this market just to give up on this long or this high move, right? So yeah. Anyways, hope that makes sense there, easy. I don't know, to me it's actually probably the most simple thing to understand. It's literally one SMA, two markets, VIX market. If the VIX starts to go negative, right? Your market's going to go up. If the VIX starts to go positive while the stock market's in an uptrend, there's a good chance we're getting ready to pull back the market. So to me it's really probably the far more most simple thing for me to wrap my head around. And it actually there's so much confluence amongst those two time frames, these two markets, and that one SMA. It was like, for me, it was definitely like more light bulbs going off there. So I guess the question is really for those of you in the chat. I guess maybe I'll just make a little poll and we'll see. Top or yeah, maybe a little poll ski. That'd be fun. Where is that thing at? Okay, we have made a poll. Is market macro bullish? Is the market macro bullish market right now? Yes or no? Based off of, I guess you could say, what we teach on the stream, not what your own thoughts are about markets. Bitcoin is currently breaking out of that daily volume weighted average price. Oh, I should have told this. Well, I already. It's just going to go to the next VWAP. It's going to go to the VWAPs we haven't tested from the previous daily VWAP high. It doesn't really, it's not, I guess it's more for you than it is for me because, you know. Ready? I already know we're hitting the target right now because it wasn't that far off. So, inputs, low, high. Guy and then this guy here. Ding, ding, ding. Yep, so essentially this was, I know we were talking early in the stream, like, hey, look at the daily VWAP, blah, blah, blah. This would be the next target for when the previous broke out. So, you know, good chance you can even see Bitcoin hit up as high as 114,000 within this leg we're currently on. So this was our daily VWAP back here. So that was our most recent daily VWAP zone, right? So we just broke that out. So now we're going to break out to the next one. And the next daily VWAP zone I had for Bitcoin started here. So this would be T1. And then this up here would basically be T2. Well, actually, no, there's 3 of them. So let me just double check that. There's 1, 2. So it's actually like this. There's another one right there. So, T1, this is T3 actually, T3, and this is T2. So, as Bitcoin jumps up into these daily VWAPs, you expect that, you know, this is essentially your long breakout. These are your targets, and there can be hesitation and resistance at any one of those levels, just like you saw at the previous daily VWAP, right? So as the market comes up and hits T1, T2 of these daily VWAPs, it has resistance, right? And then it broke out to next zone. So now these are going to kind of do their normal resistance jam. So ultimately, you know, that would be the completion of a long target, right? Well, completing from here to there. And that's how you take volume of the previous markets, map them off for the future, and know that as you get through one daily volume, you squeeze out and you go to the next. And now this one. And now we're going to be putting a bunch of people on their daily volume weighted average price for their short trade. From what? From this previous high. So that's all we're doing, you know. And I hope that me showing all this doesn't make it stop working, because this has worked beautifully for predicting Bitcoin for nearly 3.5 years, day in, day out, week in, week out. before pretty much most people can even have a clue what's going on. So if this does stop working, that will suck. But I hope it doesn't. But anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, we just took what? The previous high. It's done it. It's just everyone who was trading bearish. Look at everyone who was trading bearish. We just figured out where their volume levels are at, and we're just going back up to them. That's it. Literally, that is all. We figured out where someone keeps all their money, and we're just going and getting it. Right there. And it's all these people that are, say, everyone who went short over the past couple, it's all these guys that are holding their short, took no profit, and now they're back to break even or losing, and they're pissed off. Why? Because that's exactly the objective of the market. That's what the market does. It goes to and from everyone's volume, everyone's stop out, etc., etc., etc. And look at, guess what? Guess what? If the market were to pull back here, right? So let's say we come up, and do I know that we're going to pull back? Absolutely not. Do I know there's a good chance as you come up into the daily VWAPs that you can be met with resistance? Yes. Does that resistance turn into greater resistance and drop it out? Maybe, right? If it does, where's it going to go? If the market tops out here and rolls over, where's it going to go? Highly, highly, highly likely it's going to come back down and retrace the volume weighted average price of everyone that was just getting long this last bottom. So if we throw a couple volume weighted average prices, right now it would say that the pullback target is down to here. Now every day these are going to go up. So realistically the pullback target is maybe like here, right? Maybe the pullback target is here. It just depends on, let's just say the market traded in this upper zone for 3 days. As it trades in there for 3 days, these VWAPs are going to increase up to here, right? And then if they get resistance and fall out, the target would be like that, right? Just like you saw, but just backwards, right? It's just different. It's the opposite. We just did Bitcoin from the high, right? So, ready? So all this is going down, 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 down. Yet the whole time we did that move, at no point did we ever truly test what I call the volume weighted average price of pretty much that entire move and breakdown. We got close on a few little candles, but we never did. So realistically, this move here that we're seeing, this move back up, that's the first time the Bitcoin market has tested the key volume weighted average price of like this high and this structure down, right? And yeah, it's simply coming from, just call it support of this previous low, which this support was a weekly volume weighted average price that but anyways. So this low back here, this low we established from a weekly volume weighted average price. And then we bounce it up to a weekly volume weighted average price. And then we sold it down to a weekly volume weighted average price. Now we're bouncing a weekly volume weighted average price back to a daily volume weighted average price. If the daily holds resistance, then we're just going to trail this back down to the next daily volume weighted average price. So that's literally all that is. So you ever see me just giving out Bitcoin targets? It's 90% of the time coming from the volume weighted average price of somebody else's previous market participation. David, yeah, sure. Well, you just saw me do the VWAPs. The VWAPs are simply on TradingView. It's just anchored VWAP on TradingView. You just set it to the lower high of a candle, which is in the settings, and then a 50 SMA. It's just a 50 simple moving average. And you just turn off your pre-market data. So if you're going to use TradingView, you just go to this guy here. Sorry, 1 second. Why is that? Oh, it's because I'm on Bitcoin. That's why. Like, that doesn't make sense. So if you're gonna, you can use whatever platform you want to use. Thinkorswim has the most accurate SMA calculations that I found though. So no, Thinkorswim does not have Anchor View app. You have to use TradingView for it. But yeah, you're using a 30-minute time frame specifically. You don't want to use the SMA calculation you're looking for comes from regular trading hours. So this chart here, this has no pre-market, no after hours. You just simply turn it off, and it's somewhere in the settings of any of your brokers typically. Where it's at, I don't know from others, but I do for Thinkorswim and TradingView. But yeah, you're just gonna go to the sessions, turn off extended trading hours, keep regular trading hours on. You're going to add a 50 simple moving average, which you do under the indicators tab, and then you just change it to a 30-minute time frame. And that is going to give you what we call the 30-minute 50 SMA open, high, low, close trading system, which is simply just an SMA and price. If price is trading above, market is bullish. If price is trading below, market is bearish. If market is trading above, bullish. And and we consider that to be mid-term trading, like shorter term macro swing environment, right? So you're not going to catch a top, you're not going to catch a bottom, but you're going to be transitioning with the meat and potatoes of the market, if you will, right? So, if you look back at a couple of these examples here, which again, I am currently long biased the market. I got long in the afternoon of Friday before the close. So my current long position on the market, which is with UPRO 3 times leverage ETF, because I get 3x the return of the market using that ETF as opposed to buying SPY. Now you could buy options, or you could be doing futures. You can take on whatever sort of risk appetite you want. But the long started when the market started getting over the 50 SMA. Now, could it have failed and it broken back down? Sure. That is out of my control. But the rules say if market is above 50 SMA, you have to start being optimistic or arguably participating on the long. So my long starts end of day Friday. Okay? As it relates to swing long or macro trend long. Also traded some long on Friday, but that was or Thursday, but that was for a bounce. And then traded long some Friday, but that was for a reversal. And now it's swing long. Okay. That being said, going back to a couple other examples here. Look at this back here, right? Look at that long. So think about this one back here. Look at this long, right? So this long started at the end of the day on this Wednesday, right at the end of the day, right? Same scenario, kind of like they're doing right now. Right at the end of the day Wednesday, they break the market back over the 50 SMA and hold it, and then the following day blast it off into a long, right? And then that macro swing long goes on for how long exactly? Let's see. That macro swing long stayed positive for a total of 13 days and 20 hours. So that swing long setup lasted 13 days and 20 hours before the system went back negative. And then that negative market realistically lasted that negative market only lasted this one's tricky because FOMC kind of whipsawed it, but we'll just do it to when it flipped back to positive, which would have been sometime in the after hour. So that only lasted 22 hours. So you had a 13-day swing long followed by 22 hours of a negative system, at which point the market then went back to positive for another 5 days and 4 hours before it flipped the SMA. And then the market just went negative for arguably 2 days and 23 hours. And now we're back to a positive market, right? So now we're going back to positive here. And actually, these are supposed to, I don't know why it looks, well, I know why, never mind. I'll just stop talking. And now we're back to a positive market, and the positive market so far has gone on for, well, essentially 2 days and 2 hours because of the weekend. All right. TUS does not have anchored VWAPs, no. So again, essentially this long operation has been on since sometime Friday. Actually, I have that wrong. Well, no, it's not. It's debatable, any one of these candles, but it's been going on for about 2 days now since the close of Friday. How long does it last? Again, I don't make up that. I don't create that rule. Don't have it. I don't know how long this move will last. I don't know how well it's going to perform. I don't know if we're just going to top out here and then the market goes negative in a day and a half from now, etc. Sometimes there's signals in the market that we could use to top the market. Let me rephrase that. Do I know when it's going to top? No. But if the volatility index were to start, where did that go? Yeah, there it is. If the volatility index was to start breaking out, then yeah, I would start probably selling the market, and that could top it. So it's like you never know exactly when something might top out, but there can be signals and stuff generated from the VIX. I mean, that's how we used it to bottom this market, right? Not actually, that's kind of a lie. Never mind. Not bottom this market, but at least kind of take the market long up on that day, right? So we used the VIX just a couple days ago to be long bias in a macro bearish trend, right? But that's not currently happening right now with the VIX in my case. But what I can tell you is happening today is that since the market started, hold on, I want to increase the size of this one. Since the market did start turning positive this morning, most of the market sold off since the open. The only thing that's had some decent performance have been the Mag 7, which is the only reason that the market is currently up right now, right? So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's bring back up, what's this? 67%. So end poll. So 33%, excuse me, 33% no. Market is not in a macro bullish environment. Okay. And 67% think it is, which again, our stream is like at this point 7 people, so it's not like we're doing a massive poll here, but good to know. All right, so looking at the volatility index, it's just now creeping up to the 10-minute
SMA, which doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, but the only time I even really consider to be maybe, never mind. That sounds stupid saying it. No, I'm hearing myself. It just sounds dumb. But I will not be really worried about VIX movement until it gets over the 15-minute SMA. If we start to break the 15-minute SMA, then that's where I start to consider volatility might really be trying to, pop off some bit, but nah. So, and we're well off from that, right? So, let me bring this up. Oh, let me change this to the VIX real quick. Oh, it is on the VIX. Or no, it's not. I need to change the name of these guys. Which one am I on? Window capture 1. That is the VIX. Oh, there it is, yeah. So the 15-minute VIX is right there. Alright, so that's what the 15-minute VIX look like. If the VIX 15-minute isn't uptrending, we're not really concerned about volatility as it relates to affecting the market, right? Now, know how everyone thinks if the volatility index is going up, then the market is going to be going down. That's true in most cases, right? But if the VIX is going up while it's in a downtrend, we're less concerned about its effect on the market. When the VIX is going up, market is fearful, markets tend to kind of pull back. That's totally true. But if the VIX going up is happening while it's in a downtrend sell signal, we're less scared of that volatility increase. Unless the volatility increases so much that it starts to possibly change from the downtrend to the uptrend. At that point, we start to concern ourselves or actually become fearful with the increase in volatility. We don't consider to be fearful of volatility increases if it's not because it's in an uptrend, okay? That's an important thing, okay? So, that means we should probably make a new poll. Is the volatility index, is the VIX in an uptrend or downtrend? Right, meow. As it relates to quotations, the system. So there's a new poll. If you guys want to participate, feel free. If you don't, again, at the end of the day, I can't make you do anything you don't want to do, especially while I'm sitting at home behind a computer screen. I wonder, I haven't seen our SPX gap strategy work for a while. That's why I haven't been using it. But I wonder if it's probably gonna work today based off this breakout. So usually we look at sometimes, gap and goes to the 161. But I haven't. Not that it hasn't been working. It's just it hasn't been as consistent. This used to work about like 67% of the time. Now it seems like it's down to 50. But if the gap and go has follow through, a lot of times I'll look to that 161. But again, this has been a strategy that just hasn't really been performing that great as of late. But it's always in the back of my mind that I'm like, well, we have a big gap up today. If the gap up really goes, that's going to be a target. But this morning we woke up, and since the open, equities were struggling. They're improving now, obviously. So if I show you guys this window, which is the market internals window, let me bring that up. Why does it, I don't know why it doesn't like to do that, but. So if you look at the market internals, right, we can see that the Mag 7, those are kind of continuing up or have been. We can see across the board some of those equities in the NASDAQ, the S&P, they're kind of bouncing off that low. So those are helping things increase for the moment. So we're seeing less selling in the market than we were at the initial open and start of the morning. So that wouldn't quite be an all-time high, but also there was some levels that the Nasdaq has. So the Nasdaq has a long target, arguably towards like $602.42 today. We didn't really discuss that, so I can't really like sit here on stream and arguably take credit for it or anything like that. But it's just in general, the Nasdaq had a long target about like 602.42 to 1 second. Let me get over there. Yeah, 602.42 or so. I don't think there's something else I'm missing there, but yeah. Anyways, arguably QQQ had a long target up to about 602.42. We hit a high of 602.05 there. So if the Q, I'm just speaking a bunch of randomness that I feel like at this point, but anyways, yeah. SPX gap targets won't complete, obviously, if the QQQ long target holds enough resistance. So, like I said before, the SPX gap targets just haven't been working the way they used to, unfortunately. But, I mean, it still works. I mean, it's not that it doesn't, but you just can't fall in love with that sort of system. It works on the days where momentum's good and things are breaking out. So, all said and done, by the end of the day, we might see we might see that target complete. Polls should be uptrend or downtrend. And I agree with that too, Petey. At the same time, even I was thinking about uptrend, downtrend too, and I'm like, well, I guess it depends because everyone has a different kind of meaning of uptrend, downtrend. So, honestly, probably the better way of saying it would be: is the system, positive or negative, or is the system in an uptrend or a downtrend? Because the system relates to the 30-minute time frame, so that would keep us all on the same focus, right? Is the system positive or negative? Is the system in an uptrend, downtrend? And that always would relate to the 30 minutes. So, but then again, that would only be specific to our stream. You couldn't really take that elsewhere and be like, hey guys, is the system positive or negative? And then know what you're talking about, right? Oh, anyways, let me take this down. Don't really, again, it's kind of random. Yeah, also this morning, wow, there's been a lot of movement since the open. Because this morning the penny stocks were just garbage. So unless they just started randomly blasting them off at the open, there wasn't. Then again, I haven't really put a lot of effort into looking around this morning. Because again, I'm just pretty much analyzing the market and just riding the small. It's not a huge position by any means, but just riding the small swing long on the market I got for the time being, and just helping you guys out on stream, helping you understand that we're not in a bearish market anymore and why the markets blew up overnight. And essentially, what I feel is helping keep you guys on the right side of the trend. But yeah, I'm wondering if there's any good penny stocks out there that are triggering something decent. Actually, that one's kind of decent. Maybe. This would be downtrend on VIX until 1695 breaks. Everything else is just a lower high question. 1695. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm itching. My finger's itchy. Yeah, so for me, it would be, well, hold on one second. I don't have my... Yeah, so for me, it would be 1652. The market would have to be established above 1652 for the volatility index to enter what I believe to be a meaningful uptrend. Right now, the volatility index, actually, I'll just bring it up so you can see it. 1 second. Wait, I must have titled that wrong because, oh no, wait, yeah, that's weird. Definitely did something wrong with my stream there. I don't get it. It's trading view then? What the heck did I do? Where is that chart? I'm so confused right now. I just renamed my chart so I'd be more organized, and now I cannot even freaking find the one I'm looking for. I'm so confused. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that one, but there it is. Anyways, yeah, PD, I don't know if you're still here, but if you are, yeah, so as far as like the uptrend thing, yeah, for me, the meaningful uptrend for the VIX would start at 1652. Right now, the 1 minute is positive, so if I were to, maybe if I can make this a little bigger for you too, try and make this full screen. Yeah, so I'm up here on the upper left, very top left. You can see here, this is a VIX 1 minute chart, and we know what? We know that the VIX 1 minute is in an uptrend. Why? Because it broke above, so that's an uptrend, and that's its first test of the uptrend essentially. Next one over would be a 2 minute, so we know the 2 minutes in an uptrend. Next one here is a 5 minute, we know the 5 minutes in an uptrend. Next one here is a 10 minute. 10 minutes not uptrending, so realistically the next level of whatever would be the 10 minute, right? I mean, you could be looking at an 8 minute, there's a 9 minute, 7 minute, right? Regardless, just in general, here's a 10 minute, 10 minutes still in a downtrend, and then we come over to the 15 minute, 15 minutes in a downtrend. We come over to the 30 minute, 30 minutes in a downtrend. We really only consider the VIX in the volatility market as increasing in a meaningful way if we are above the 30 minute. The 15 minute we use as a precursor. So we start getting ready around the 15 minute. If the 15 minute starts to break out on the VIX, then we start to kind of get ready that maybe something's going on. If that 15 minute will generally lead us to the 30 minute. That's why we get ready at the 15, because if the 15 minute breaks out, the market on the VIX will generally go to the 30 minute, and at that point it could arguably be go time, ready to make a decision. So, yeah, is everything a lower, so when you said is everything a low or high, I mean, yes and no, because the 1 minute's a higher low, higher high. So the only way I can rationalize and explain it easily is only when VIX gets over the 30 minute do we really concern ourselves with the volatility market as far as increasing and breaking out. Oh, snap. Look at Bitcoin. Look at our friend Bitcoin just going up, dude. No way. Who would have thought? Remember at the beginning of the stream, we said there's a good chance Bitcoin's going to go all the way up to 114,000. Now, again, Bitcoin moves in really big values. When we mentioned that, Bitcoin's trading like 113,400 or whatever, so it only had to go another $700. But the point being is that I just wanted to emphasize to you guys how the markets trade in between daily volume weighted average prices very frequently and or accurately for that matter. So that being said, here's what it looks like on a 1 minute. Okay, so we're just going to call this now. Well, that's not entirely true because there's another one in there and I really should map it off just because. But yeah, so we're pretty much completing that $114,000 long forecast and target suggestion from this morning's stream on Bitcoin. Crazy, I know. But anyways, so these two, whatever, these are our targets, right? So we're just going to call this for simple purposes T1, and we'll call this T2, even though this is really like a T3, but T2. Okay, so, and then obviously this would be daily VWAP. This here is daily VWAP. Okay, so what do we see? Market goes over daily VWAP 1, is able to sustain, rally 2, daily VWAP 2. This is going to be our next kind of little over-under resistance point, right? So as the market is trading up into 114,000, this is not when you start buying long for technical analysis reasons. That's not it, right? Let me rephrase that. When the market is running up like that into 114,000, this is generally not when I would be looking to be buying this long, because I know that I would be buying long into a daily volume weighted average price back test, which means there's a good chance there could be resistance here. So I could arguably be buying into a top, a short-term top, a temporary top, whatever, right, etc. So yeah, I'm would be a little less optimistic on yeah, that guy there being long. So anyways, cheers to that. Thanks for jumping in here, PD Trades. Actually, quick question for you. When's the first time you jumped into our stream or watched our stream? Is this your first time ever watching one of our stream/videos? Funny, they got, I don't know, there must have been some sort of news in like the penny stock, or sorry, for the marijuana markets or something like that, because obviously all those little random like weed penny stocks are kind of moving, which yeah, it's just kind of interesting because you haven't seen those move in a while. Oh no, that was a decent one missed. Decent long opportunity missed. Again, remember QQQ still has a target of $602.42. I know we just pulled back there and it looked kind of scary, but do remember there's still a good chance we can get $602.42 on the NASDAQ. But anyways. Yep, sorry, just kind of flipping through some of these random penny stocks right now. I'm seeing if maybe there's some sort of bounce setups coming into play. Which, No, that one's sketchy. Oh, wait. What is this guy? Too low volume. Ooh, that one was kind of obvious, I guess. All right. Well, yeah, that's interesting. Tells me you've seen the channel before. But good. I'm glad to have you back, brother. It's fun. Oh, yeah, VFF. See, this one has another good one, but it was such low volume this morning. Dang it. Wow, the back test was at 6 a.m. Yeah, so never mind. Oh no, we are just a little bit too late from that one, but that one's interesting. Oh, that sucks. That one's got a gap. That one was a clear. I gotta. Whatever. I was gonna say the stock YCBD is kind of one of those stocks that has that interesting setup, but they also left a gap, so they're probably going to dump this thing later today to fill the gap down at $1. So I don't know. That was another one. I'm like, I wish I would have saw that earlier. That one's a dead giveaway penny stock that you'd long and it would blow up. I don't know how I missed that one today. I don't even know if I saw that today. This might be my first time seeing it, but anyways, YCBD's just today was a dead giveaway. The stock was so obvious. Anyways, if you want, you can review the stock YCBD, looking at it from the what is this? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, YCBD since the open was a dead giveaway, and I wish I would have saw that sooner, but that one was pretty obvious, I think. Oh, sorry, you guys are probably just looking at this daily VWAP stuff on Bitcoin. My apologies. Not that it's not important, but see, like right now, this just for fun stuff. You can see just right now we're on the 1-minute 50 SMA for the day. So essentially this is not the first time, but for the most part, you can see the market starting to interact with the 50 SMA on the SPY's 1 minute. So this is that one. So on the day, right? So if you think about the intraday, this would be the 1 minute uptrend test here. Okay. The 5-minute is far off. 5 minutes been an uptrend, 5 minutes still in an uptrend. Right on, peoples. Sorry, I don't have a whole lot to say. There's really not a whole lot to say. Other than the swing long bias trade environment started at the end of the day Friday. So the titles of our videos and the narratives and the YouTube thumbnails for right now will continue to be stock markets and a buy program, bullish, etc., swing long, until the trend flips to negative, and then we'll kind of change our narrative on stream. But pretty much every day you come in to the stream at this point is just going to be markets are bullish, swing long, until we go back to bearish. That could come in the form of the markets going bearish or the VIX turning positive. Whatever one, fine by me, right? But either of those two things will have to change before we start changing tone or changing narrative on the market. Which I know that, it's not very exciting. I know you'd rather just have me screaming at you guys through a screen about, what are the markets going to do? Oh, is the Fed going to destroy us? It's just no. It's just the market's positive until it's negative. Okay. So yes, I know the stream could get a little boring at times. I do apologize. What's the news look? Oh, actually, let's go take a look at the news today. I bet you guys, Who wants to make a bet? Who wants to make a bet that if we look at the news all of a sudden is like back to being positive today? It's probably going to be like, oh, stocks wave off, losses from previous week as the Fed says something about, what was it today? What was the economic data that came out? I don't even care. Don't even want to know what it is. I'll just find out from the news. What is it? So let's see. Stock market news today. S&P 500 rises as AI name NVIDIA rebounds. So last week, the stock market was selling off because of AI fears and whatever else. Now this week, stocks are rebounding because of AI. So how is it 1 week ago everyone's scared of AI and now that's why the market's going down, but this week the gains are the AI gains are back? That is kind of silly. Granted, it's not wrong. They are right. NVIDIA got smoked last week, an AI name, so markets were going down because stocks that have super heavy market caps like NVIDIA that just so happen to be involved in AI are going down. So think, okay, yeah, it's true. And yeah, arguably stocks did rebound this week because, well, yeah, something like NVIDIA probably did go up and it probably did help the market go up. But, and here's another one. Dow flat. S&P 500, NASDAQ kickoff week with gains as investors look past shutdown fears. So now the market was down last week because of fears of shutdown and blah, 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 blah. But now things are up because somehow this random person that makes articles on the internet that works for MarketWatch.com somehow knows what all investors are thinking. And that was, they were all afraid of the shutdowns. But somehow by today, he's figured out that all of those people that previously were scared are no longer scared. How he has those magical powers, we're not quite sure, but we are more than willing to find out if there's any magical superpowers that MarketWatch has that we don't. Because we would like some of that. So that's kind of crazy. But the reality is more simple. The stock market, a couple days back, entered a selling program and was in a downtrend. And just on Friday before the close, we entered an uptrend. So we're going long markets. Equities will rise. You're now going to see someone from MarketWatch say, markets rebound as AI fears go away. No. We're just in an uptrend. That's it. It's pretty simple. We are now 100% accurate on predicting news before it happens. That is pretty crazy. How is it that we've been able to so accurately predict ahead of time what the new regurgitation of news would be. It's simple. Figure out where things go into uptrends and downtrends, the system, and then you will start to see how news follows your plays because you're ahead of the curve or in line with the trend. So if you expect the markets are going to have gains because you're in an uptrend, then you can assume if you're correct, then the news is going to go, oh, stocks are up because no one fears AI anymore, or fears shutdowns, and that's why the markets are going up. No. Literally, markets just operate on uptrend, downtrend all day long, every day, through multiple time frames. That's it. But it is funny. It is funny. It is a good old giggle to go laugh at the market. Now, see, what would also be crazy is, now we know that, because you guys know, because you're here at the Boiler Room Network stream, that the daily VWAPs they were talking about, 114,000, were a long target, right? And this is a really aggressive kind of long push up into 114,000, right? This sort of long back to our daily VWAP targets was a really good long. This is the sort of long that's probably grabbing attention on the internet right now. So we've essentially bounced the market back to our counter long targets here. And the movement happened so quickly, it's a really cool long move. The type of long move that you know is probably grabbing some attention. So more likely than not, if we started to go look up things about Bitcoin today, we're probably going to start coming across articles that are like, Bitcoin just shoots back to the price of 114,000 as inflation worries come back. Or Bitcoin bull or Bitcoin bears are scared as Bitcoin defends 108,000 and runs it all the way back to 114,000, right? So you already know, right? We don't even have to go look, but we will. And chances are we're probably going to find something along those lines. Even though last week on the stream we already could have told you, hey guys, when Bitcoin bounces, we're probably going back to here, right? And then as it completes, here comes the news. 114,000, who thought? It's crazy. No, it's just like, obviously. The market is going to trade back and forth to and from previous market participants' levels to give them the big middle finger. This is everyone trading down, their volume weighted average price, about 114K. Bounce market back to the price, stop them all out, giggle, and then read someone from Market Watch's news article about it. Speaking of, I'm going to go see if I can find anything like that, just for the purposes of giggling. Bitcoin news today. Holy shit, first thing, 8 hours ago. Wow. Bitcoin price today. This is bounces back near 112,000 as whale buying offers support. So the price is going back to 112,000 because someone from investing.com that writes articles 100% knows there was a whale buying support. All right. Let's see what this one is. Yahoo Finance. Bitcoin price briefly surges above 112,000. Well, that's pretty much it. So they're just basically telling you what Bitcoin's done after it's already done it. Cool. Appreciate that, Yahoo. What other news do we got here? I mean, just another one. Bitcoin gets back to 112,000. Let's try and look for some of the most recent. How do you do that on here? Oh, most recent, more news. I don't know why it's not. I don't want top stories. I want most recent. Oh, by the way, I mean, I'm Bitcoin too. If for whatever reason these daily VWAP levels that we have on the screen don't have resistance, then I've mapped off a couple more things that I like on the upside. These are essentially upper distribution levels. So the strategy and whatever that helps us identify the back test to here, I consider this to be kind of like I consider max pain a couple different things, but essentially this is like the volume weighted average price of the last sell move, and then getting up into kind of like up here, and up here would be like super max pain levels. But anyways, there is possibility of going up there too, blah blah blah. But anyways, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, the next long target's up for me, which would be here and essentially here, and that would be obviously with an accepted breakout, same thing. And any one of these points can be resistance. So remember that your long targets are the start of resistance points. That's why people are always like, you said it was a long and then it just fell off. It's like, well, yeah, because every long target is also the potential start of resistance. That's when you have good long targets. So, just be mindful of that. Again, just a reminder, we are long bias the markets. We are not bearish. We are swing macro long. Why? Because the market is positive, we are in an uptrend, and that's just what you do. The market was just bearish like last week. If you wanted to be a short seller or bearish, you should have been doing it when the market was in a downtrend. You're less likely to have really good sell-offs in an uptrend. The only time the market sells off when it's in an uptrend is if the volatility market breaks out into an uptrend. And the VIX tells us, hey, start selling the market off. I know it's in an uptrend, but the VIX just said do it. So again, markets are in an uptrend, VIX is in a downtrend. Markets are perfectly symbiotic right now, if that's how you say that word. I was trying to sound smarter than I probably am. But things are working as they should. All is good. Good is good, bad is bad, 2 + 2 = 2. Things are making total sense. Looks like I don't know if they're going to trade a hand, aren't they? Again, realistically, what needs to happen? Oh, sorry. Not realistically, actually, but is the market internals. It always comes back to the old market internals. So again, we have the market internals, right, guys? Right on, brother. What do the market internals say? The market internals say pretty much the only thing holding up our markets today are the Mag 7. So today's another one of those days where we raise our hands, we clap, and we congratulate the 7 stocks that usually control our market. Thank you, because every other market pretty much did not perform that great so far. They sold off equities this morning across the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, S&P 500. They bounced some of those stocks, but essentially they used the Mag 7 stocks to manipulate the overall markets higher today. And when I say manipulate, it's really just they essentially used the Mag 7 as their vehicle today to drive equity markets higher. That's the way I would read today's market so far. We started into an uptrend Friday. As a result, you should just be long bias. Market, you wake up, has a big gap up. So we went into an uptrend Friday. They used the futures market overnight to manipulate it higher, preventing most of the public from participating. And then since the open, they've essentially used the Mag 7 to prop today's market and keep today's market up, essentially keeping the buy program or the uptrend this morning intact. not allowing it to kind of fall off the map, so on and so forth. Five-minute candles on the SPY, a little crazy. I mean, maybe. I don't even see them as crazy. They just kind of look as just normal, I guess. It's just slow. I mean, I don't want to say we're at all-time highs. We're really not, but it's, we just started a new buy move and had just a mega gap up overnight. I mean, essentially from the buy move, the market is now up, or hit a high of almost 1%. It's like $4 a share increase from the buy move. But yeah, I mean, today's just a big gap up, and there's just not a ton of stuff running. So the markets are staying up. They're grinding up. They're going higher. And it's a very lackluster move. This is the type of move that people, look at and like, for example, I can already see it right now. Maybe somebody else who's streaming on YouTube, maybe Twitch, maybe they're going to post a video about it today, whatever. And it's exactly like it looks. The market's kind of choppy today, right? You're like, it wasn't really good. Not a lot of opportunities out there. Didn't really want to trade it. Kind of choppy. A lot of back and forth. And I would agree with them. They're right. When you look at the market today, you will realize that most everything sold off. Had a little bounce. The only things that went up were the Mag 7. So yeah, we didn't have this aggressive, crazy, bullish running market today. You're right. You look at the S&P 500, it didn't just blow off and just squeeze faces. You're right. And when I look at the market internals, the things that create the market, they didn't do that. So yeah, it would make sense, right? And that's all visible in real time as you're looking at the market. Sometimes it's not like super easy to understand, and it takes a while to read it. And sometimes, and this stuff is happening in real time, so it's not, you still have to make educated decisions about what's going to happen. But the hindsight becomes even more clear when you can, look at market internals, right? Anyone can look back on a chart today and be like, oh man, it was kind of choppy out there. It's like, yeah, but why? There's a million reasons why, obviously. But one of the good telltale signs are the market internals, right? Gotta love me some of that Bitcoin. Gotta love me some of that Bitcoin. Anyways, QQQ, just basically, this is the point where markets are just like, meh. Slow down. Again, we're at 11 o'clock. We pretty much... again, this is a situation. It's 11 o'clock. You pretty much nailed today already. Today's just one of those days where, no, we did. I would say we did it pretty good. We can review today, but let's do that. Let's just take a quick second and let's review today's forecast, which it was okay, but it's just I would say we were in line with today. You didn't really see many cool tradable announcement targets today, and that's just because of how I read the markets, which would be the only really kind of recommendation I gave on the day was to watch for a pullback down into support over under. That's the only thing I can muster up today. So we took the 30-minute volume weighted average price for the day. And I can actually see they're using the 30-minute volume weighted average price off the high for resistance. So that's another thing that I use, but today is just a day I didn't really pay attention to it. Didn't want to overcomplicate and kind of confuse some people. So essentially going into the open for the day, the volume weighted average price on the 30-minute chart was right here. So our suggested pullback to start today was down into the price of, well, this thing's being stupid, so I'm just going to do this. So just basically since our pre-market
volume weighted average price was down at the price of 66482. That was really our suggested play for the day, was in the pre-market when the market was trading, like here. We're gonna pull the market down to there. That's the only thing I could really figure out that was easily obtainable, and that's pretty much it. I mean, of course, from there we have multiple other little small trades we could have been doing, right? Like we could have taken the low a day here and ran a VWAP on it. Could have scalped long here. We could have taken a VWAP here, ran it off this low a day, and took scalp longs there. I just didn't recommend those trades because those are kind of the intraday 1 minute momentum trades that are going to happen regardless of the day. Those just repeat all the time. So you can almost always get a 1 minute VWAP scalpable trade on the day, but it's those bigger kind of more trending plays and targets that we're more concerned about. And today for the SPY just didn't really have anything other than just a pullback down to volume weighted average price and then just kind of go from there. And then obviously after that happened, you guys can't even see my charts. I'm on the wrong chart here, dummy. But anyways, yeah. So today overall was an day. We had one little trade suggestion for the day. That's a pullback back to support, over under, which didn't really hold, which means it's not a super strong bullish day a lot of times. Yeah, market internals didn't really suggest that we're just gonna fly off and along. Didn't really suggest the markets are gonna break down. So to me, there's just so far is just we have not an overbought. We just kind of a little bit of a gap up that's just got bought into, and it just needs time to digest. The market's not ready just to give up all the gains, not ready to blow off into a long. We're either going to need this afternoon or we're going to need tomorrow before markets are moving more aggressively or something, right? So like right now, we just established a pretty good high on the day. So like right here, I can already see with my own brain without even having VWAPs on, right? We would already start anchoring this high. And we would anchor the previous one. I need to take off band multiplier here, low, high. So like right here, we would be anchoring to this breakdown and or the next one here. Dink. See, like right now our 1 minute resistance over under is like right there. So obviously you can see markets kind of pop back to it, but again, like that's it. So this is your counter target, which we kind of already did, kind of shied it, but that's where your counter target to lower high can still be it on the 1 minute, right? So, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We also have a new anchor spot now off this previous lower high. Oh, yeah, right there. So again, like I said, there's always little micro things you can be doing. But as far as the big picture stuff, we're kind of just on like a little bit of a waiting game. So BKKT Oliver, so this is a perfect example of, oh yeah, wait, BK, just keep ripping, missed that train. Yeah, BKKT was, let me just double check before I say something kind of dumb. I think it started an uptrend today. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in the pre-market today, it started a new uptrend on the 30-minute, even the 15. And so today would have been a day where you could have got long because it started an uptrend. You would have been able to capitalize. I'll show it to you real quick. So we're coming in here to BKKT, and we're going to go to this time frame right here, 30-minute. So ready? Here's your 30-minute. Yesterday, it was kind of flirting with it, but ultimately, right, so there's your 30-minute. And, I mean, I don't need to do the 15-minute. And then we'll go into a pre-market chart right here. And there you have it. So this morning, what happened? The stock BKKT recovered its 30-minute trend, which is long bias. And there was your back test of your support, and there's your long. It is not meant to be easy. Again, algorithms and computers run the stock market. But today, from the breakout and the back test, you had a So far, high a day, 35% return from today's 30-minute uptrend start. Even if you took one share and held, you got a 35% return today. So again, I don't care if you take a share. I don't care if you take $10 worth, $27,000 worth. It's irrelevant. All that matters is that you know the uptrend started today and that risk is more favorable being long in the uptrend. Now, does it work? Does it go up 30%? Does it go up 2%, 5%? Again, don't know. But there's your uptrend start. So you could have literally took 3 shares today and go, well, I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't even know if it's going to really work, but I do know that odds and opportunity is more favorable long. So I will just take at least some bit that I'm comfortable with just to at least participate in the uptrend. There you have it. Granted, if you look, again, BKKT, not that it didn't go off on a scanner. I'm sure someone could have developed a scanner and maybe it would have found it for whatever reasons. But again, it's not like BKKT was just blowing up pre-market. It's not like it was really on anyone's scanners or this or that, the other. So essentially, the only way you really would have known of BKKT today is if BKKT is simply just a stock that you follow. And you saw that yesterday or on Friday, it traded down to the 30-minute and then it recovered the 30-minute. So that would have been a long that ended up failing, kind of. 1 second. So, like, yeah, with BKKT on Friday, its first initial long was here. And they tried to stop those people out, you'll see. Alrighty, look at this. So you can see BKKT breaks out into an uptrend, and then what do? They back test the start of where that uptrend was, try to stop them out, and then run into a long, right? But ultimately, we saw BKKT, and if you were following it and just watching it, then you would have known this morning it could potentially be starting an uptrend. But everybody else that looks at biggest gainers in different stocks, kind of like I do, sometimes I'll follow individual stocks, but right, there wasn't a scanner that was necessarily telling you, hey, this stock is just going to blow up today. Now, you could have made a scanner that found that it was going over the 30-minute, so it was starting an uptrend, but that's still not going to dictate to you how big that uptrend blow-up move was going to be, right? But you just know that it's going positive. Kind of like the market, right? Same thing like we did with the market. Ready? Watch. We'll just bring up the market. Same thing here. It's the same exact thing. Look at. We'll go back to BKKT. BKKT trades down into its 30-minute trend, eventually catches support, breaks out above it, and just goes. And now we have SPY. Ready? Same thing, right? Friday, broke out over its 50 SMA, starting an uptrend. I'll grab some long. Sure enough, next day, big gap up. Did I know it was going to gap up? No, but sometimes you just got to, you have to have faith in your systems, if you will. So there you go. It's the same setup on BKKT as it is the S&P 500 there. By the way, our counter trend target as announced here on the stream as regards to the SPY and its 1 minute micro trend, that is complete. Again, there is your back test too, the 1 minute volume trend. This is the same strategy that we use on Bitcoin and predicting where Bitcoin's going to go as well. Again, the simple way of putting it is we're just taking the volume of everybody else who previously participated in the market and then screwing them over. So everyone who shorted this last leg in the market down, we just took them back. That's it. Straightforward. Simple process, repeats day in, day out, over and over and over, and probably will for the foreseeable years of our lifetime until these silly little humans launch a bunch of nuclear weapons and then just leave the cockroaches. That's probably how that's going to work. Does anybody have any questions? Probably not, considering nobody's asking any questions. On a more serious note, did anybody share the stream in Ricky Gatira's chat room as suggested last week?
If not, we're having some serious problems. When is the market dropping? That's a great question. The market will drop the next time it goes into a downtrend or the next time the volatility index goes into an uptrend, and that signals us to be bearish. By doing that, we don't pick tops or guess tops, and we stay in the right direction of the trend almost every single time. So when is that? As far as particular time, don't know. When is it in the moment? When we're going into a downtrend. That's what we don't control. Which essentially goes back to the old saying, is you have to be patient, follow the market, let the market speak to you. Because there's going to be, 16,000 people that post a YouTube video these days. And I used to be guilty of it too, to some degree. Oh, watch out for this. The market could be resistance here. Market's going to top here. Market's going to crash this. It's going to do that. No, stop talking. It's just no. It will go up and down as it should from downtrend to uptrend. Day in, day out, year in, year out. Probably until all of us are dead. And that's a good thing. Because that tells us that markets are moving as they should, positively, from positive to negative, up, down, constant motion. If you're talking about long term, which is probably what you're talking about actually, then for me, that would be when the SPY or the S&P 500 for that matter, goes into a weekly downtrend. So I don't really consider any sort of pullback on the market to be of any serious concern unless the market's below the weekly 50 SMA. Every single market crash or correction or anything from our past has only really come to or been severe if and or when the long-term SPY trend was below its weekly 50 SMA, and then we've had serious trouble. So for me, when is the market going to go down bigly? When we enter a longer-term downtrend. When do we enter a longer-term downtrend? When we enter a long-term downtrend, which is dictated by the weekly 50 SMA for me. So that's pretty much it for me to keep it very simple. If market S&P drops below, again, the weekly 50 SMA, then we can have serious issues. We will see markets drop below weekly 50 SMA and not go into bear markets or short bear markets, etc. But I really don't concern myself with anything as far as big down, unless what? Unless market is below weekly 50 SMA. Here was like the 2018 market. Here was our COVID market. And then our most recent, whatever you want to call it, which really wasn't even... Oh, wait, no, sorry. Forgot how long it's been. And then we had this market down, right? And then we had that most recent one here down, right? But also we've been projecting somewhere into 2026 the market was going to start having some struggles and probably some performance issues. So our outlook for 2026 is not so optimistic. But yeah, so... It's all comes down to the trend. So when's it going to go down big? When it breaks into a big downtrend. By the way, 1 second. Let me get off this highlighter. As everybody probably can figure out by now, the market is basically just kind of sliding, doing this little slider magooster down. And obviously, you guys probably know, because now I've taught you on this stream, that when you're looking at the market internals, you will see that the one thing that was propping up today's market is no longer going up. Those are the... You guessed it, the fangs, the old fang, the old Mag 7. Oh my God. You can see that little 1 minute micro lower low, lower high kind of going down. So obviously what's going on with your market? It hasn't been performing. Again, there's no questions. You don't have to look at the cues and be like, oh no, why is it going down? Don't understand. No, you do. The things that control the magnificence, or the things that control the NASDAQ, are not performing. So yeah, you're seeing little pullbacks on the market. It's totally obvious, right? So we will probably, what is this? I forget what poll is my at. I just realized I did a yes or no poll. I did a poll which is supposed to be a yes or no, but then I asked you 2 questions. Is this VIX in an uptrend? Yes or no? Or a downtrend? So I kind of messed that poll up. Silly. Again, guys, right now in the market, really nothing is moving long. And what was moving long, what was propping up our market, is no longer moving long. So obviously, things are going to not go up for the moment. That doesn't mean the stock market's bearish, bearish, bearish. It just means in the moment, we're not bullish. We're seeing that bearish movement. And all those things can change very quickly, but the immediate momentum has been not bullish. And that's mainly because of what you see on the screen, and that is, a basket broad view of all of the markets. And the only ones that are really even going up are the S&P issues, and that's slightly. All right? Everything else is sideways and or down, really. It's 11:14 on a Monday. Oh. Gotta love it, folks. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. What do we love? We love some good food. That's what we love. Speaking of, I got a takeout Mediterranean last night. So there's a couple good pieces of chicken breast, some rice, some garlic, some bread, some fattoush salad, just waiting for me to come downstairs and warm it up. But we're too busy, because right now we have to watch the markets. What's going on with our friend Bitcoin? Bitcoin, oh my gosh, it's getting some resistance right around this daily VWAP, which is crazy because who would have thought, No one could have possibly known there was going to be a little hesitation there. I mean, I guess after a move up, you'd expect hesitation. So I guess it's really not that hard to guess that at the end of the day, I guess. Oh no, guys, the FANG are not performing. Oh no. Our market's not doing so good. It's starting to get a little tummy ache. Ooh, no. That's not good. Don't get some Pepto. You know, I enjoy myself. I really do. You know, one thing I have learned over the years of pretty much working in my house. I've been working from home since, I don't know, 30, almost 32, 20, 21 in that area or so. So it's 11, 10 years where I pretty much have spent majority of my mornings alone. Well, you know, my wife's here sometimes, but yeah, I spent most of my adulthood working alone. And after you do that for so long, you find peace in just being by yourself, and you find ways to enjoy yourself by yourself. And it's kind of a nice thing. Not saying I'm not an outgoing person by any means. I do like to socialize, but yeah, it's been something really peaceful and nice though about just working by yourself and essentially not having to talk to too many people. Even I talk to a lot of you guys, but I enjoy that. I guess maybe the best part is just not having your manager breathe down your neck 24/7. It's probably the nice thing. But I gotta say, being alone is it's good. Oh no, guys, this is not looking good. Things are going down. But guys, what about all of those news articles we just read today? Didn't they just say like stocks are putting on gains because like AI in that the market like no one's fearful that like AI is gonna like take their job over anymore? All right, or wasn't it there was no fear of something the Fed said, so like stocks are gaining, right? But since the open, all we've really seen is a handful of stocks prop up today's price action while everything else is actually selling off. So far, I don't know what to believe. Do I believe the headlines from CNN or do I believe what the market's telling me? And that is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, does anyone know? That is that the market is currently in a macro long environment with intraday market internals being bearish. So, we're not getting positive long bias movement on the day because there's no gas in the gas tank right now. Someone forgot to put gas in the car. Literally started up the buy signal yesterday. Well, no, on Friday, dude started the car, started the buy signal, hit the gas. We took off. We're going to go have a nice family vacation. And then all of a sudden, you're kind of running out of gas on the highway. And you don't even know if there's going to be any more gas. Or maybe the guy is from AAA is coming with the gas tank, and then we will continue on with the vacation or the buy signal. But today it seemed like a day we needed to pull off at a rest stop and just chill out, and that's what's going on. Also, yeah, that stuff that went down in Michigan the other day, that was pretty crazy. Was that yesterday? The church and the just some evil. There's just some evil people out there, in this world. So that was pretty unfortunate. So yeah, definitely keep them in your thoughts and prayers, guys, because that was pretty crappy. That isn't no good. All All right, let's see what this 1 minute looks like. We're probably just gonna do a little bit of a 1 minute count. Maybe it's kind of sketch actually. Looks a little weak, but either way, looking at the 1 minute counterbounce levels right now, because obviously the main objective of any sell-off is to eventually bounce it and screw people over. But this one has more of a shelfy look, and so I'm already having to anchor a bunch. And when it's like that, it gets a little sketch, but because then it makes your target more tricky. But either way, pretty much our counter target would be anywhere from where the market just hit to this high. Because I'm looking at all the levels that broke down, that were untested, and then the shelf diving candles, and then these guys. And so, yeah, pretty much that means our counter target from the last low here. This low, gosh, TradingView just work. That low curling up, T1 would be where we just hit, and then all the way to the high side of that box. So that would be counter trend target complete. All done. There you go. Ding 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 ding. How did we know that it would probably do that? Hold on, I don't want to say it. For one of the 6 people in here, how did we know that the market would most likely trade up into that box? Why? Don't be shy. I'm going to go get a coffee, but I'm sure one of you guys will have the answer by the time I get back. And I also know the stream is delayed, so a lot of times I ask things and then it takes a bit to actually kind of get to you. Also, sometimes your guys' stream could be way behind. I feel like sometimes you gotta keep dragging that little thing on the bottom to get up to real time. I don't know, mine always goes back. But anyways, I'll be back in a sec. Alrighty, sounds like nobody knows. That's crazy. That's crazy. Nobody knows. Oh my gosh. I was just saying, what was it? Doesn't matter. It's no big deal. I was just saying, does anybody know why the market on the SPY retraced to this box we had on the screen? I was saying if anybody could figure out, I was like, well, because I was like, target hit. That was a counter long back to our VWAP zone. I said, does anybody know why the market went up into that box? Assuming someone would be like, yes, because that's a 1 minute VWAP trend, and the market likes to basically screw people over, so we're screwing over the previous market participant. But We'll get there. We'll get there. I know it's Monday morning. It's Monday. Okay. Got a couple days. We still got to get waking up on this week. Also, by the way, check this out, guys. Guys. Hey, yo, guys. You guys see this? What's our T2 daily VWAP target? Here's a good example of just learning in real time how things may or may not move around your level. So as we had already said, daily VWAP T2 is a long target on Bitcoin up to 114,000. When it trades into here, we expect it to have resistance. Look at how long it took. It even traded above and then came back to, and then tried to bounce, then went under, and then there's the breakdown, lower high at, and boom. All right. So again, there's just one example of how resistance and moves will happen or be developed around said levels of interest as it relates to our levels. I don't watch YouTube videos for stock market learning anymore, if you will. I just stick to my own stuff. So I usually don't. It's kind of even bad to say, but yeah, I can't say I do too much more education as it relates to like technical analysis learning and like stock market stuff. I don't really watch anyone's YouTube video for stock market stuff. Not that there isn't good stuff out there, and not that there isn't some people's information that is good. I just, again, kind of just stick to my ways, stick to myself, and just kind of go about my own business. So that being said, I don't know if there's anyone else on the internet that uses volume weighted average prices the same as I. I know there's some that use anchored VWAPs and what have you. And so on and so forth. And there's only really so many ways that you can use them. So at the end of the day, it's all really the same strategy. It's just the points at which you pick your anchor spots may or may not be a little different, and maybe the why of how you use them. But I still have, well, and that's what I was getting at, is since I don't really watch a ton of YouTube stuff or find myself scrolling in or trying to learn from other people, I don't know if anybody else uses VWAPs in the same manner. So that being said, I have no idea if someone else has a daily VWAP there or not. But so, we'll probably, I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to think about what the future may hold. Anyways, this has been it's been a decent day. I mean, actually, it's been a really good day. It's like, I can't even say it has been a bad day because, at the end of the day, the market did in fact go up, and it's been up it was going up, if you will. So we've already had a good day in the market and that's the other thing too, is, most people are going to look at this and go, oh, today was crappy, which, I mean, it wasn't a good day as far as like trading momentum on the day. But in terms of where the market is at and where it went, in terms of our buy signal level, it's been fine. It's not the greatest, but it's actually been pretty decent. Because again, me, you, all of us here, whether or not you got a position, here's another thing too. So whether or not any of you got long over the weekend like I did, whether or not you got long or not, but as long as you're in this stream, right? You're here, you're in this stream, and you're following along, whether you have a position on or don't have a position on, we've all been correct on the bias of the market since here. Why? Because the bias of the market for all of us here on the stream, as it relates to the systems we use, say we are long bias once the market got over this level, right? And as a result, poof. Now, I had a position on, right? So whether or not you bought in and you took part in that play, that's another story, right? But as far as your analysis and your approach and your tools and stuff, you were on the right side of the market. You said we should be long above, and sure enough, there goes your market. So that A could have prevented you from being short. That could have prevented you from, doing whatever, I guess. But ultimately, for those that are here that follow the stream, we simply use a few things, but one of the systems pretty much said you're long here. And so I will just group you all together, and that is, if you're here on the stream, you're a part of this group that said be long into the close and after hours yesterday. And as a result, you guys helped create this big gap up on the market because you are participating in the correct side of our macro trend. So cheers, guys. You're doing a phenomenal job at predicting stock market movement. All thanks to you, I was able to stay on the right side of the trend. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your help. All right, so I'm assuming at this point the market's probably pretty close to hitting the 10 SMA. You guys remember this morning? Like, yeah, you guys, we probably got to get the 10 SMA. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, it's a 10 minute, 30 minute. Not quite. We haven't gotten it yet, but we are getting very close. And I wish TradingView would just work when I say work. We are getting very close, guys. Where's the 10 SMA? You see where the 10 SMA is at. Now, I know none of you guys are going to go back and rewatch this stream, most likely, nor will you go back to fact check me, most likely. Not just because who has the time to really do that. But if you do, you will know, hey guys, you will see that the price is really extended from the 10 SMA. That means what's most likely going to happen is the market will pull back to the 10 SMA, and or you will see this keep creeping up with every 30-minute candle closing the gap and bringing price to 10 SMA trend. That has pretty much happened. How did we know that was going to happen? Because that's just what happens. It's not really a mystery. That's just the natural ebb and flow of the stock market. Is it goes into uptrends and back tests shorter term SMA trends. Yesterday we went into an uptrend Friday, and we had yet to back test that 10 SMA, and there was a big gap, etc. Again, it's the basics. It's just what happens. You can look back at this stock chart and simply tell yourself, how frequently does the market trade to and from, back and forth to that 10 SMA? Up, back test, below, back test, down, back test, up, back test, up, back test, down, back test, up, back test. So it happens so frequently that you don't even you just know it's going to happen sooner or later. So like today, how do we know we didn't? It's just what happens. So it's not too hard to say it's going to happen, and then it ends up happening, right? This is pretty obvious. That's just kind of how it works. Now, meanwhile, I'm sure there was someone in the market that was doing something like this, though, and they were probably like, well, if we take this point from this point, then we go across that point, and then we go from, maybe this point down below this point, we run it up like that, then I see that maybe there is the opportunity for this thing to puke out right there, and then we're going to get a reverse grippy slide to the downside, hit him with a Wedger Magoo break. Totally true. Right? Or you could have, you're not even looking at the right, I hate this, but that's okay. Let me just redo that because it was pretty funny. Yeah, so we are, again, just pulling back to the 10 SMA, but yeah, someone out there is probably like doing some trend line jam like this, taking one from like here to there, and they're probably doing something like that, and they're like, well, we're breaking here, so, which that's all very valid and true. mind you, we're just probably looking at market internals and saying, yeah, well, there's really no equities in the market that are strong right now, so it would make sense that the market pulls back. So we don't necessarily have to start drawing all these magical trend lines on a chart trying to make a pattern that we think we've all learned at some point or another from some sort of book or post on the internet. To think that maybe there's a breakdown and it's going to be bearish, this, that, the... No, we're just looking at the market, and the market doesn't say it's bear or bullish right now. It says it's bearish. Market internals are down. Yeah, my bad, PD. I apologize for that. So yeah, that's pretty much what I was talking about. And so, anyways, market internals for the market are still going down. Therefore, that's it. And what do we say about the SPY? We said today, or the SPY SPX, we were going to come back and most likely backtest the 10 SMA. The 10 SMA is right now. So this is actually a short-term support trend over under as it relates to SMA trading. So you're probably going to see a little bit of a 1-minute algorithm down here. So try to hold support, which you're kind of already seeing maybe. You see how we've come down close to it. Next candle, instantly green. So you're already seeing sort of that reactionary, and whether or not it works well or not, but this is essentially a 10 SMA support over under, right? That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to confuse people. But you guys know, all levels, whether, doesn't matter, VWAP, SMA, everything as it trades into it for the first time has what we call first tag metric support opportunity, where since it's coming into it, a lot of times there could be a reactionary event in the opposite, okay? And then this is the over under, right? So if it's going to hold support, it stays above, right? If it's going to hold support but it fakes down, then it's going to drop below, and then it recovers and does that, etc. Support can come in so many different intricate fashions, whether it's just down into, bounce away, whether it's chop for a little bit, then take off, whether it's a fake breakdown, back test, recover, and go. It can come in any way. But what we know is that generally the best opportunity for any of that to work is when the market is coming into it for the first time. So when you look at the 30-minute, we know what? We know that this market is coming down into this 10 SMA for the first time since even like the last breakout. I don't even know, however you want to call it, right? I mean, like, that's just it. And then if you want to go look at the past, you can see how we've reacted here before, right? So here's an example. On this day, where market was a little extended from the 10 SMA, we pulled it back to the 10, a little below, then ended up having a bounce in that area. Wasn't perfect by any means, right? You know, there's a bunch of examples of these scenarios. I mean, here's another one. This is on the downside where market sells off, trades back to, kind of hits a little reaction down. Anyways, that being said, it's very basic stuff. And I'm not saying this is the great long setup here on this low by any means. It's basic stuff, which is if the short-term trend's going to stay positive as it relates to this 10 SMA, then this would be its support holding continuation, etc. Which a lot of times we actually use the 1 hour too. I was going to say we also like to use the 1 hour trend as well. 1 hour 10 SMA, but we need some more time on that guy. And that's another, the 1 hour is right there. That's interesting. Anyways, I hope all this is making sense. It's probably not because, you know, I'm just jam-packing freaking 11 years of market trading and practice and analysis and teaching all into just one stream every single day. So I'm sure it's not the most straightforward. Alrighty, what's Bitcoin doing? Oh, Bitcoin's just doing whatever it's doing. Actually, I should probably take a look at the old VIX here. I might have kind of made a slight mistake by not paying attention there. Nope. Nope, still pretty much same. Oh yeah, there's another thing. Here's one other thing that I haven't said today, which is something I say every once in a while when it's kind of the risk of things where let's actually use an example from back here. So look at this. This is a great example. So look at this right here. See how the market goes up into this long and then, you know, whatnot, it dumps all the way down to here and then still stays in the long, right, for another couple weeks or whatever. That's to go to show just how aggressive of a pullback you can have on the market and it still be in a macro uptrend. All right, let's go look at the market today. Okay. The market started its long, obviously over the 50, so where I'm starting, and then up. The market could go all the way down to here and still be in an uptrend. Okay. So that's always what you have to understand about the system. Kind of the inherent risk is that the uptrend, or where the uptrend level is, and that no matter where you're at in the current move or current market, that 50 SMA is always a target because it's the level that can change the market from bullish to bearish. And the markets do trade bullish to bearish. So always, no matter what, at some point, the market is going to come back to that 50 SMA, whether it's sooner or later. And that is why it is always your objective when using the system to be in long as close as you can be to the start or the break of that SMA. So that in the event the long doesn't last for a long time or doesn't have easy movement and persist to an uptrend, is that if it reverses back down to that SMA and or below, you take a very small loss or you're not red at all. Because that's exactly it. Think about this, right? For everyone who got long yesterday when the market just started getting over the 50 SMA on Friday, their average price is, let's say, around, well, wherever, this yellow line I just drew, like $6. Their average price is, you know, this box that I just put up. That's where their average price is at. And if they got the absolute low, it'd be there, whatever. So we'll say it's there. All right. The market can be in an uptrend as long as it's over the 50. So even if the market sold all the way off down and below everyone's average entry there on that start point, it could still go down to the 50, put everyone red, and then still be in an uptrend, right? So that being said, that's why you always want your entry as close as possible to that 50 SMA. Because if the long or the move doesn't have good follow through, and let's say it was let's just say it was a fake breakout, right? Let's just say this was a fake long and we all bought Friday, and then the market's like, actually, you know what? This is a false long. We're going to break down into a downtrend. Then you know if it breaks down, it's going to go to the 50 SMA, and then that would be where the market goes bearish, and that would be your stop out, which is very close to entry, right? So nonetheless, that's the whole spiel there. And what I was talking about, which is you always in the back of your mind are like, well, worst case scenario is 50 SMA. Then worst case scenario would be going into a downtrend. But usually we're not looking for the market to have this sort of event. Let me go back to this day. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. Oh my gosh. See, I click this up here and then it doesn't register all the time. So this event on this day, I don't even know if that could have been like a CPI day or whatever, maybe even Wednesday would be FOMC. That was a Friday, so I don't know what. There could have been some sort of catalyst on that day, like jobs or CPI to help move it in such a way, but I don't really know. But one thing I do know that for sure happened was on this day, markets in an uptrend. On this day, this aggressive selling was so aggressive that I bet what was happening was the volatility index was going into an uptrend. So though the market was positive, the VIX started breaking out into an uptrend, which told us to start immediately selling the market. But the market didn't want to go into a downtrend, so it just got picked back up and went. So on this day, we probably used the VIX to be more in line with aggressive selling in an uptrend, right? So that's it. The only time you want to be aggressive selling pullbacks in a stock market uptrend against the system is if the system on the VIX is saying to do so. That didn't happen. Or, well, it hasn't happened today. If I bring the VIX, if I show you guys the VIX charts again. So now we're looking at the VIX. If I show you the VIX charts, we're looking at the 15-minute, right? So the 15-minute is now updated. The 15-minute is now, well, if Thinkorswim would freaking work. Say the 15-minute is now priced down to 1622. So unless the VIX is even over 1622, all of this pulling back that we're seeing on the market is just that. It's just a little pullback. We're not even really concerned. The only time we can start to even remotely concern ourselves is if the 15-minute was breaking out. Otherwise, this just tells me it's called like maybe profit-taking pullbacks on the market, resetting into higher lows. The only time I'd assume that it's anything worse than that is if the volatility index starts to break out, specifically the 30-minute, but the earliest we look at is the 15, and the 15 is what you're currently seeing on the screen at $16.22. If that starts to break out, then we would say, doesn't guarantee that markets are going to get smoked, but why? Why is it that just at the end of day Friday, the market went positive into a buy move? But then as we wake up on Monday, the VIX is already potentially signaling that something is going on, right? So again, why would you send us right into a buy signal on Friday just to give us contradictory signals on the VIX on Monday, right? That's like why. You know what I mean? Why send? It's one of those things that just doesn't quite make sense, right? Like carpooling with people when they're on the way makes sense. Carpooling to save on gas when someone lives out of the way, that doesn't make sense. So it's like, why would you do that? So why would the market go into a buy signal Friday when just to give us a contradictory sell signal on the VIX on Monday? Something's kind of off there. Right? Now that hasn't happened, but those are that right now is a scenario that is on the back burner. So if that starts to occur, it's like, why? Like Easy said, you could call it super duper manipulation if you want, which is really all it is at the end of the day. Markets moving, the people that really control the markets move it however they want. And in the in-between, we're able to read these things like, why is the market doing that? Because somebody wants it to be doing that, obviously. But that's what I would read as, whether you want to call it manipulation or markets are uncertain, however that works for you, right? So anyways, that is
that is that. And now I will bring back up TradingView because we're done with that one. All right, well, I think we'll end it there for the day at lunch. I think we've done a pretty good job on today's stream. Obviously, the recommendation was what? To first pull the market back. And then really mainly is just the market's not really that bullish in this buy move because all the market internals are just not working. So as much as we'd like for this swing long to kind of keep going, the markets are just not performing that way. The market internals have been going down. So until that changes, it's going to be hard for this market to kind of recover up. And if the VIX or whatever ends up breaking out by today or maybe even into tomorrow, we'll find out. If we do start breaking out, the 15 and the 30 minute, we might arguably be looking to reset the market down to that 50 SMA. So that's something that I'm watching going into today and tomorrow, which is if the VIX starts to break out said levels, we will then in the short term look to take the market back to the 50 SMA. If by the end of the day today and going into tomorrow, etc., VIX is not breaking out, then we're going to obviously look to continue the rally that started from the buy signal. Okay, so really leaning on the VIX over the next day or so. All right, so anyways, you guys have a good one and make sure to stay on the right side of the trend and share a stream with Riggy G.